It's kind of you get these feedback loops, like the culture inspires the people you recruit, but then the people you recruit inspire the culture.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Musella, CEO of CoinRule. Been in London for like more than 11 years, worked for a few banks and always in Innovation Lab. And this is my third startup and it's going very well. What we do automated trading for cryptocurrencies. So we automate your investments.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Oleg Giberstein. I grew up in Germany, came to the UK in 2007 to study, did an MPhil degree at Oxford, worked in banking at Citigroup, got a bit tired of banking and went into the startup and tech world and started my first startup, then got to meet Gabriele and also a third co-founder, Zdenek. And then we were all getting really into crypto blockchain around that time. And we started CoinRule together.
So how did the two of you, and you mentioned a third co-founder, how did you meet? And then at what point did you decide, actually, we should start a business together?
We met at Mass Challenge, so it's an accelerator in tobacco docks in London. We had like previous companies, both of us, and I used to have a 9-to-5 job, and then in the evening I used to go and meet my team and work on the startup. And there was this guy on the other side of the big table, always like asking me like, "Hey, we should catch up. We should have a coffee at some point." Like I think he asked for like 3 months, and I was very stressed, always sweaty, running around. So I didn't really have time. But then at some point we had this coffee, and then we found that we both like blockchain, crypto, decentralization, and we started thinking about bouncing ideas about companies, and then here we are, like we built a company together after a few weeks.
Amazing. And obviously crypto is quite a confusing world to a lot of people, so I suppose the banking background helped. So how did you settle on crypto being the topic of the business, and what, how did you find the service that's needed and for you to fulfill?
It's funny, actually, you say that the banking background helps. I actually find that a lot of bankers understand it less well than like just normal, regular people who get in touch with it. I mean, the way how we started was we just started to trade. You start by buying, like you hear about it, it kind of gets your curiosity going. If you're already into tech, you buy some Bitcoin, you buy some Ethereum. Next thing you know, you're totally obsessed with it and you are learning everything about it, but you're also trading. And after a little bit of time, you realize actually this market is crazy. It's a 24/7 market. There's a huge amount of noise. You're just constantly making bad decisions. You need tools to help you. And actually, all three of us founders, we were in that situation that we were trading. We wanted to find something that would help ourselves. That's why the idea clicked so nicely with us. So Gabriele had already started to prepare the designs for what became CoinRule when I first met him. And it just was such a logical thing. I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. And that's how things kicked off then.
So truly scratching your own itch then with challenges that you've seen. Always a great place to start a business. And then when you realized that there was a real business in this and you could have a real go of it, I suppose funding was front of mind. So you could really grow the business and make it happen. With crypto, there seems to have been a flood of people rushing to the market. So did that make it a little more difficult when approaching investors?
I would say like yes, in a way. I mean, first of all, I would like to say that people, when they think about business, they always think about the monetization time. But actually, I always think that business is from the idea to the execution, the user research, and then eventually you monetize and you actually have what they call a business. But we always, since day one, we thought there was a very good niche and there was a very good market segment waiting for us to make a business. And in terms of a fundraise, I mean, it was only after 1 year that we started working that we got into an accelerator in Budapest with MKB Bank. So we actually went to the accelerator. We were the first startup of the cohort, and we actually won. And they gave us the first pre-seed of 150K, right? So at that moment, obviously, receiving the first fund released a bit of pressure from the team, and we started already like planning for expansion. And we went from I don't know, 4 to 6 people, and now we are 13 after the second fundraise. So yes, I mean, fundraising really changed the life of the company, but I mean, I would say it kind of released a little bit of the stress and the pressure on the cash flow.
And obviously, you've mentioned there that you had to grow a team out to, I suppose, fulfill a lot of the promises to investors. So, what were some of the learning curves when building the team?
So many, so many steps of them, right? Starting from recruitment to kind of getting the right team culture, getting the right level of seniority, right? Like on the one hand, you want people who are open to work in like a really fast growing startup. I mean, like over the last 3-4 months, we've just seen insane growth. And some people can look very strong on paper, but they might not necessarily be the right person to really culturally fit into that. But then you're trying to scale the team while you're also actually establishing the culture in the first place. So like, and it's kind of you get these feedback loops. Like the culture inspires the people you recruit, but then the people you recruit inspire the culture. And to get that mixture right, and then also find the time not just to actually fix the most burning of the burning plates, but actually to take a break and then really do something, analyze the team scales and kind of try to establish more systematic processes. That's really critical. That's something actually Gabriele is spending a lot of his time really establishing in the company. And I think that's been, for me, definitely the biggest learning curve in that journey.
Yeah, you mentioned getting the mix right. Do you think that's something that gets easier over time, or is that just an ongoing challenge
I think it's an ongoing challenge. Probably it becomes even more difficult when you grow, because you might have the budget, so the right kind of salary to pay, but then at the same time you need to have more specialized people and kind of top-notch people. So I mean, recruitment is just like, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of intuition. You need to be brave enough to hire and fire very quick. So far, we had some situation where we had people fired after 2 weeks. Actually, one guy just got stolen by Microsoft, so he's starting with Microsoft like next month, and that's a guy that we kind of trained, and for 2 years has been with us. He's like super young, but he's very talented. So you need to fight back and forth, like with big corporations wanting to steal your guys. We need to fight with the market of like kind of good people that don't accept the startup life. And also, I think we also had like kind of couple of MBAs joining, and they were like totally like out of scope for the job and for the culture. So the right mix is really, you need to kind of build it day by day, and you need to maintain it as well. Yeah, but it's fulfilling as well. I mean, it's difficult, but it's fulfilling at the end.
Yeah, so we obviously talk about bringing the right teams on a lot. It's so important for every business. But one thing we don't always touch on is what you've mentioned, is how important it is that if someone's not right, not to sort of string them along for the good of both the company and the individual. So what's your advice around that?
I mean, it's always tough, right? Because you always have this idea that everything will just work out beautifully, and sometimes it doesn't. Um, like the startup motto is hire slow, fire fast. So ideally, in the ideal world, we are so convinced by the people we recruit that at the end of the process, it inevitably goes right. But obviously that doesn't work like that. I think after a month or so, you can already see if a person doesn't really pull their weight or doesn't really fit into the team. And that's very often then our failure as well, because then we didn't probably do our job right in the recruitment. We didn't think about it in the right way. But the best outcome then for that person as well as for the company is that we part ways, because if a person cannot work out in a certain environment, there's no point for that person to stay with the company either. I think it's actually better for that person to find a better fit for their career and so on. And we are learning the hard way to make these decisions fast.
And to add to that, so far we had like kind of two processes that worked very well for recruitment. So one, it's actually 5 technical interviews plus 1 exercise. And so we just like from day one we start with technical interviews, and that's good one. And then another one is we kind of try to work with as an advisory, on an advisory agreement with them. So a few hours here and there, and then slowly they get introduced to the culture, and then after 1 or 2 months, then eventually we ask them if they want to join. So actually the second method works much better because you really end up working with them, and you kind of stronger the relationship.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And how does that affect your role? So as you've grown out the team, how's that affected your roles as the founders?
I'll write that one. So yeah, we had this moment end of December, so a few months ago, where the team went from 7 to 14 people, and all of a sudden, we had to redesign basically the structure of the team. So we had like 2 product team, 2 other product marketing teams, 1 person that connected to, and then the strategy level and the management level, right? So at the beginning, I really struggled with it because I was the product manager, and all of a sudden I had to be head of product and have 2 product owners. And I detached myself to the day-to-day activities, and I really was like really suffering. Basically, I'm used to work very closely with designer engineers and actually having the roadmap in my hands. So for me was I had to go through like a pain moment of delegation. So let it go, trust those people that were trained but not necessarily product owner as a as a background. Um, so was difficult, but then and then at the end we managed to find a middle way where we actually it's like the points like with the roles is that they are so specific sometimes that they not allow actually the personality to come out, because if you're a product manager you cannot be the head of engineering, right? But then maybe that person has some components of that role and also the other role. So at the moment we are much more relaxed in terms of labeling the position in the company. So there is a structure, but also we keep a little bit of flexibility on going left or right.
Yeah, and is that become more flexible or less flexible as time's gone on between the 3 co-founders?
It's a good question. I mean, generally, I would say it becomes somewhat less flexible because the roles become kind of more clearly defined. Like you learn what are everyone's strengths, what are people's weaknesses. I think what's great to see, we've all really like grown in this journey. Like you can really like tell, like obviously we are like breaking new ground for each of us, but it's an amazing like kind of process to see the co-founders really grow and evolve. In terms of like flexibility, I think it's great. We really speak about everything. Like we're very open with each other. But I think in terms of like what everyone does at this point, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, perfect. And what are the key goals then for the business this year?
Okay, that's a good call. I mean, first of all, to sustain our growth has been great. So since November, we doubled our revenues every month. So now we are around like I think 80K gross per month in dollars. So the first objective is to go to 100K to fundraise at certain valuation that we have in mind. Also to expand the team with at least 2 more senior developers to get a marketer on board. Yeah, but the main point is like we wanna build the simplest backtesting functionality in the world. Basically, the possibility of you build your automated trade, your strategy, and then you can test that on different market conditions. So you can say if this strategy would have been like in 2017, what would there be the performance? So that's the thing that we are working. It's funny, like 2021, there is no single easy to use back testing for retail users. Like, if you're a hobbyist investors, you want to see, predictions and also the past performances, it's impossible at the moment, unless you are a very good programmer.
So you've had some impressive results then month on month, and clearly ambitious to want to keep that rate up as well. What do you think the real hurdles are going to be over the next sort of 12 months?
So the first one will be to really deliver on the product improvements that we are working on. I mean, it's kind of, we are in the space where there's so many opportunities, right? Like we know we can deliver if we avoid the temptations of losing focus, but also if we can really execute in terms of some of the technical challenges. A lot of the stuff we are working on, it's tough, like it's hard, it's actually difficult. And at the growth we are going, new problems arise all the time, right? So like our support teams are completely overwhelmed these days. So we like we end up having to fight fires instead of like focusing really like religiously on the key critical things. So that's, I would say, the biggest threat in a way. But it's also, I mean, it's a threat, but actually it's also great because that's what you want. You want to see this product market fit stage where just everything is going nuts, and that's what we're going through. So to stay focused on that, right, that's what we need to do in the next 12 months.
And you mentioned the next round of fundraising is on the horizon as well. So what do you need to do to gear the business up so it's ready for that and presentable for the next round of investors?
I mean, I think with the last fundraising, me and Oleg, we became some sort of investor fundraise war machines. So we are like very good at that. We are very well-rounded. What we need to do, we literally, we just need to update our financial projection because we have much more data now. So we have been working on that last week. And we need to just reformulate a bit of the storytelling because now we are going to the next level of the company life. So I think that these two things, and then we are ready to go. We have already an established process of, it's a very streamlined kind of process in terms of due diligence. How do we share data? How do we select investors? We are very now used to that.
Perfect. And for those listening, where can they find out more about both CoinRule and yourselves?
Oh, they can go on coinrule.com.
Yeah, coinrule.com or on Twitter at coinrulehq. But the easiest place is really coinrule.com. And you can find us personally. I'm on @ogiberstein on Twitter, and Gabriele.
Yeah, I'm a Fresh Muse with MUSE.